Yay, it's working. I've had trouble getting onto my live stream. Sorry there. Okay, blessed be everyone. Welcome to another Mystery Witch School live stream. Today we're talking about spells and common questions that people have asked me recently about spell crafting. And so I thought I'd put them all together in one video. And I've also added a few extra questions there too, in case we get to them, which are more common questions that people are asking about magic and spell casting. So hello, Moira. Hello, Maeve. It's good to see you. And for those of you who are watching the replay, welcome to the replay. Welcome to Mystery Witch School. If it's the first time you've been here, and if you want to know what we do here, my name is Sandra to begin with. And what we do here is we talk about magic, Wicca, witchcraft, tarot, and shadow work. So they're the main topics that we talk about. I do a live pretty much every week, unless there's something else comes up at this time. And I also release another video on a Thursday morning, Australian time, which is a Wednesday evening in the US and Canada, that is about a similar topic to the one that I do the live on. I'm trying to sort of keep it sort of a topic for the week type of thing. So that will be on spells as well, with a little bit more detail about spell troubleshooting. Okay, hello, Tawny. It's good to see you. Bright blessings. And if you do want to know where to start your witchcraft practice, but you're just trying to put it all together yourself, I have a free video called How to Start Your Witchcraft Practice. There's a link in the description field below this video. And you can also go onto my website, themysterywitchschool.com, and you'll find a link there right on the header page. And you can also go to my freebies tab on that website too and find that all of my free things like free masterclasses or PDFs that you can download. Because we're talking about spell casting at the moment, I also have a free spellcaster checklist on that website as well, and also a link in the description field underneath this video. That is a checklist for you to tick off if you're wanting to plan your spells and you're wanting to have better results. And I also give you information at the beginning of that checklist of what the most important thing is when it comes to spell casting. So check out that if you haven't done that already. Okay, I'm just looking at the comments here. And I'm going to go on and let's start talking about what we're doing today. So we're going to talk a little bit about reversal magic, because I had a question of what is it and how do you do it effectively. Adding to spells, so that means if you've done a spell already and you want to add something to it, can you do that? And if so, how? Also, herbal correspondences. So if you're using multiple herbs, how do you know which ones to use together? And spell timing. So how do you time your spells? So we'll talk about those first, and then we may get on to some more common questions. And if you want to comment about your spell casting experience in the comments, then certainly do that. And also, if you're watching the live, pop that in the chat as well. I also have super chat, so for those of you who want to donate to the channel that way through YouTube, that's available, and super thanks as well if you're watching the replay. Okay, so reversal magic. First of all, reversal magic is when you're reversing something. So it means that somebody has sent you a spell, or usually it's a curse or a hex of some sort, and you want to basically just push it back at them. Okay, it's where you're reversing something. So it's a reply to sender. Okay, you're sending it back. So if somebody sends you something in the mail and you want to send it back to them, you just put return to sender. And that's pretty much what reversal magic is. It's reversing it back to its home, to where it came from, and giving it back. So it's like you're giving the letter back to the person who wrote it to you. Now, it's up to you on your whole ethics around this. I mean, all you're doing is you're sending back what somebody's already put out, which is kind of what the universe does anyway. But sometimes it's the magic that sometimes has to happen, but it can also be a problem of doing magic that way as well, because if you're sending something back to them and then they send it back to you and then you send it back to them and then they send it back to you, you're kind of playing magical ping pong, and that can be tiresome, and you're putting a lot of energy into something that's just draining your energy and it's not really going anywhere. So that's something to think about before you do reversal magic. But the way that it's done is that, again, like when we're doing magic, we try to create something that's metaphorical or similar to what it is that we're wanting to do. So a lot of people would use a mirror in reversal magic. So you may have a candle in the middle. It could be a black candle, for example, and you may then put mirrors around that candle. You could have something that represents you or the person who's being cursed, and put mirrors around that person. Now, the mirrors are facing outwards, so the reflective part of the mirror is facing outwards. And then you do the spell utilizing that image of the mirrors reflecting back the magic that's being sent to you. So that's a way you can use mirrors in a spell. You can also just use your own imagination to imagine that you have a mirror shield around you. So the shield that you have, if you do shielding, it's a reflective shield, so it's reflecting everything back around you. You would need to make sure that if it's reflecting anything back, it is only reflecting back the negative stuff that is being sent to you, that it's not reflecting back all of the stuff, because you do want to be able to accept good energy that's more positive for you. So that's a way of doing reversal magic. Sometimes you can imagine that the curse is like an arrow, and the curse is kind of like being sent at you. And so you can see that arrow as either hitting a shield and just falling, so that way it's not going back, or that when the arrow hits your shield, it hits it, and then it bounces back and returns back to sender. So when you're doing reversal magic, you're basically saying anything that has been sent to me goes back to its own house, its own home, returned back to sender. And that's essentially what you're doing. And it's your imagination that, let your imagination fly when it comes to how you actually physically do the spell, because you're using symbolism of things being returned. The mirror is probably the most common one. It's not necessarily the most effective, but it is very helpful in helping you feel into that, all of the energy that's being sent to you, or another person, if you're doing it on behalf of another person, is being sent back to whoever sent it, and then that person ends up reaping the effects of their own spell. So it's putting it back at them. And sometimes I guess people do need to learn a lesson that way, but as I said, it can end up being a ping pong match. So you need to really think about that before you do it that way. There are other ways of dealing with curse energy that can be more effective than reversal magic, because you're just putting an end to it there and then, and so you're not continuing the energy. You've got to put a lot of energy into spell casting. You've got to put emotion into it, and if you're putting emotion of revenge and anger and frustration into something, that's where you're vibrating. That's the level you're vibrating at, and it's not a good level to vibrate at. And even though we all would feel those things when somebody's sending something to us, we all feel that. We're human, we're going to feel it. Getting caught up in it and really indulging in that energy in a way that you're sending that energy back out is allowing yourself to vibrate for too long in that energy. It's better to acknowledge that energy within yourself, acknowledge that you're angry, that you want revenge, and that you want all of these normal human things, and then to do some kind of healing work or release work on those emotions, and then go and do some other form of protective magic, so that you're disintegrating the spell, or you're doing something else with the spell. You can alchemically turn that energy into something that's positive and beneficial to you, and you would do that by vibrating at a higher level, because when you're doing protection, you're vibrating at a level of feeling safe. If you're transforming something that is negative into something positive, you've got to vibrate in that positive energy in order to make that transformation. So it's more effective, and you're getting more benefits from it when you do it that way. So it's kind of using the energy somebody sent you for your own benefit, really. Okay. So the next question was about adding. I'll just go in and have a look at the chat just to see. Hi, Dwight. Hi, Shane. Hi, everybody. Okay. So another interesting question was about adding to spells after you've already cast them. So you've cast a spell a week ago and you want to add something to it. I'm just going to have a look a bit more at this question. So how to incorporate new elements or intentions into an existing spell. So what I would do in that case is, it depends on the spell. If you're doing a spell that's continuous, like say it's a 33-day spell, then you could add to it if you're still within that 33 days, particularly if you're at the early stage of that 33 days. You could then add anything to it as you go and kind of build the spell out so that it gets, more, I guess, more detail, because that's probably what you're adding. You're probably adding some extra details that you didn't think of before when you were first doing the spell. And if it's a long-term spell like that, you could just add to it. But if it's not a long-term spell, like it's only like a one-off spell, and you did it a week ago, then I would redo it. Redo the spell again, adding those extra bits and pieces to it. And you're already working on something, so it's already out there. All you need is to add something to it. So just redoing the spell again is just then putting it out there again with that extra detail in it. So that's what I would do. I wouldn't go to the same spell and like if it's still there, say it's a 7-day spell, I probably would start that again with a new thing to it rather than adding something to it, particularly if the 7 days is almost up. So that's the answer to that one. Anybody else got anything you want to say about that, or want to share anything, or what you think you might do in that circumstance, or any questions about that? Okay, next one is when you're doing a spell and you want to use multiple herbs, how do you determine the correspondences for multiple herbs? So it depends, again, back to your intention in the first place. So when you're choosing your correspondences, you want to think about what it is you want. Okay, so if it is a spell to draw, say, more money to you, then what do you need that money for? Is it for something in particular, or is it just you want to have more money flow? You want it to flow more into your life so that it's always there when you need it? Do you want to accumulate more wealth? So you're looking at doing a spell more for investing your money or getting large sums of money so that you can use it to accumulate some kind of safety net or security blanket or a nest egg or something like that. You really need to understand what your intention is when it comes to these things, because the way that you choose your correspondences is going to be based on your intention. So once you know what you want, you're going to be looking for correspondences that are really good for helping things flow to you. So you could pick a herb that is about things flowing. And if you're working with other elements like water, for example, water is about flow. And then if it's money, you'd be wanting to look at the money herbs. Now, some of the money herbs can be are very spicy. There's a lot of spices that are used for money. So if you're wanting money that's quick, you might want to use like ginger, for example, because ginger is hot. Okay, so it's spicy, so it's quick, so it can be quick money. If you're wanting something that is going to be associated with something that you love, so maybe you're looking at doing a business or something that involves something you enjoy doing, and you're wanting to bring more money through something you love, then you might be looking at herbs like basil, because basil's used also for love and for money. So you can mix a little bit of the love herbs in there with it. So it doesn't just have to be all about money. You could bring in some love herbs if there's something associated with something that you enjoy or something that you love in the way that the money comes to you. If you're doing a spell to get an idea about how can I have a side hustle or how can I bring money to me in a way that I love, then some rose to your money herbs and do things like that. So think about what you want, and then go to a correspondence list or a book that I have here. This is a really great book of correspondences. It doesn't just go into herbs and things. It also goes into various different deities and animals to work with, and zodiac signs, runes, and the elements as well. So this one is called a Complete Book of Correspondences. It's the Llewellyn. And I will put a link to this. If you want to get it on Amazon, I'll put a link in the description field once the video is finished. And it's by Sandra Kynes at the bottom here. It's a really good book to look through. And so if you figure out what your intention is, you just go and look at all of the herbs and spices and gods and goddesses and even crystals that are associated with those intentions and what you want to feel, and just put them together and do it that way. So you're bringing in a bit of this and a bit of that, and use your imagination and your creativity to do that. You don't have to stick to money herbs if you're doing a money spell. You don't just have to stick to love herbs if you're doing a love spell. You can bring in some of the other aspects of what it is you're looking for when you're bringing your spells together. And it just depends on what herbs are available for you, which ones are available, and working with those. You may find that some herbs aren't available, so you need to look again in your book of correspondences to see what herbs might also be available that you can also use. And take notice of what the herbs do. What are all the multiple functions of one particular herb? Because you can use basil for a number of different things. You can use basil for money, you can use it for love, and you can use it for protection. So it's a pretty, most herbs have more than one function. Cinnamon can be about driving, passion as much as it can be about attracting money. So, when you're attracting your money, do you want fast money using ginger, or do you want, hot money like cinnamon? How do you want it? And just have a look at what those herbs do in other ways, so that you can see what energy is going to come with that money, because it will have that extra bit of every herb has its own energy, and when you're looking at what they do, looking at how the money's coming to you will determine what herbs you choose. Or you might want to blend. You might want money to come to you from many different ways and many different sources, and be open to however it comes to you. Then you can use multiple herbs so that it can come to you with those little nuances of through something you love or someone you love. It can come through something you're very passionate about, if it's sort of cinnamon, or something quick, if you're working with ginger. So get to know your herbs, get to know what's around, get to know the herbs that are available to you. And then when it comes to doing spells, you'll know then which ones to use and which ones to put together. Okay. Hi, Krishna. Okay. I'd cast a new spell, yeah. What do you mean by hot money regarding cinnamon? So this could be money. I don't necessarily mean hot money as in stealing money. I mean money and honey. Money is that's coming to you in a very fast and maybe a passionate way. So it could be money that's coming through passion, something you could be passionate about. It could be money that comes out of the blue. So it could be something you haven't expected and it just, lands in your lap. That kind of thing. It's sort of it's something where it's fun and it's joyful, but it's fast. Okay, same with ginger. Ginger's fast because they're spices, so they're sort of fast. So that's kind of what I mean by the hot aspect of it. Okay, so that okay, and timing for spells. Another question here was how different phases of the moon can influence spell outcomes. This is a pretty common question, and it's also one I think you can get information about anywhere. But we do work a lot with the lunar energies in magic. And the new moon is about planting seeds and things growing all the way up to the full moon. So if you're going to grow something, you would maybe do the spell a few days after the new moon, or even up to a week after the new moon to plant new seeds. And then as the moon grows, the spell grows, everything grows. And then when you get to the full moon, that's when things are really, really quite powerful. And even though in astrology, the full moon is often seen as letting go and releasing things, from a magical perspective and from a witchcraft perspective, it's the most powerful time of the moon to do magic. So if you're wanting to do magic where you really feel you need that extra energy, then you would do it around the full moon and use that energy of the full moon to give you that energy and to give the spell that energy. Uh, Often spells are done like 3 consecutive full moons. So if you're doing something that's big, you might do the spell at one full moon and then the next full moon and then repeat it again for the 3rd full moon and get the energy that way for your spell casting, for your magic. Some people like to work that way. And doing something at the full moon can often bring things in faster than more the slow way. If you're wanting to build something or grow something, then doing your spell closer to, say, the new moon or within 4 or 5 days after the new moon is a good time to do that. But if you're really in a hurry and you want something to land with a bit more force, then the full moon is a good time to do something, to do your magic. If you're doing magic to let something go or to remove something or even reversal magic, then after the full moon is when you do that kind of magic because the moon's energy is waning. It's not as energetic and it symbolizes the tide going out. So you're sending things out after the full moon and bringing things in prior to the full moon. The dark moon phase is when you can't see the moon at all, so there's no real lunar energy happening at the dark moon. Some people like to not do magic at all during that time. If you were doing magic, you'd definitely be doing magic to remove things, particularly subconscious things, like if you've got any beliefs or any thoughts or any annoying uh, beliefs about yourself and the world around you that you're just sick and tired of having and you're wanting to change those, then that's a good time of the moon to do the more shadow worky stuff, the more internal work kind of thing at the dark moon. Or just have a witch's holiday or just do divination during that time where I find there's not a lot of work that's done in the waning time of the moon. It's not so much about trying to remove things from a magical perspective. Often it's really just trying to bring things in that we're wanting. And you want to make sure that if you do something where you've removed something, that you then also do something in the waxing part of the moon to bring in something to replace that, because nature abhors a vacuum. And when you're thinking from a subconscious point of view, removing something to the subconscious is the same as having it and keeping it. And so you want to make sure that when you're removing something, you know exactly what it is you're wanting to replace it with, so that you're focusing on the replacement after you do the removing of it. Okay. I'll just look for comments here. Okie dokie. In my opinion, visualizations and imagination, along with pure intentions, are very powerful in magic. Yep. Trust in yourself and have faith in the progress without over anticipating results. Absolutely. Your intention is the most important part of magic. And people do magic even without correspondences. You can make things happen even without the herbs and the spices and the crystals and all of those fun things that we like to use. They serve a purpose. They do vibrate at a similar frequency. We can have them, if we're giving the intention to the herb or the crystal that this is what we're wanting it to do, we're setting the intention that's vibrating at a level that those are also vibrating at. And so it can help us get into the feel of the spell, and also to help carry that spell out there. So they're useful tools, but we still are the center of the magic. It's our imagination and our feeling that really helps us with the magic. So you do have to get good with your imagination and being clear in what your intention is, and be able to put yourself in the position of it already happening, as if it's already done. It's already happened and you're living it, even if it's not there in 3D reality just yet. That's a very difficult thing to do, because we are so caught up in our materialistic world, in just what we see and what we touch is real, that often using our imagination as much as we could use it it's just not done. We don't live in our imagination. We live in this so-called real world, but it's our imagination that's creating our world. So it's okay to imagine that you're living in the house you want to live in your day-to-day activities. If you're doing the cleaning, imagine you're cleaning the house you want to live in rather than the house you do live in. So treat the house you do live in as if you were living in the house you want to live in. So, keep it the way you'd want to keep it. Tidy it the way you'd want to tidy it. Feel towards your current abode as you would towards the one you want. That is the key to magic. So anything in your life that you don't want anymore, you're wanting to change, if you imagine that thing is the thing you actually want to change it to and treat it like that, it will become that. Things will happen in your life that will take you to what it is that you want. It'll come to you, but you've got to use your imagination to get there. It's very powerful. Okay, so that was some of those questions. Now, another question was, how do I know if a spell's worked? Which is kind of funny, because if a spell's worked, then that means that you got the result you were doing the spell for. So that means it worked. You got it, it worked. Sometimes you might sort of get a partial result, so it's kind of partially worked, but it hasn't worked quite as well as you wanted it to work, or it's worked in a different way to the way you wanted it to work. Magic will do that. We're not in control of how something happens. We're only telling the universe what it is we're wanting. We can't control how it happens, how it comes to us, and how that's going to play out. So sometimes the magic will work in strange ways and will give you things that aren't the way you expected it. And some people will say that it gives you the results that are best for you, but that's not necessarily so. It gives you the results, I think, that on a subconscious level, you're allowing yourself to accept. Magic works on our subconscious. Our subconscious mind runs the show. 90% of the time, some people say 95% of the time, our subconscious is the one running the show. It's not our conscious mind at all. And that runs the magic show too. So our subconscious mind's got to be on board with our conscious mind when we do a spell. And this is where the imagination comes in. The more you can imagine you're experiencing what you want to experience as the end result, the more your subconscious is actually going to get trained to come on board with you, because it's about repetition, repetition, repetition when it comes to the subconscious. And using your imagination, imagining yourself in that situation is a way to train your subconscious mind to think it's already happening, and it will actually assist you then in bringing it to you. So utilize the subconscious mind there. What should you do if a spell seems to backfire? Backfiring, I guess, means that maybe you got the opposite result to the one that you got, or you got the result, but it didn't turn out good. If you got the result and it didn't turn out well, it's probably because it wasn't well to begin with. You may have thought that you wanted something, but that it would be good, but then it turned out it wasn't so good. A lot of love spells end up that way with people who are casting love spells on other people that they know. They will often cast a spell on someone, and then that someone ends up becoming maybe obsessed with them for a period of time, and then that person wishes they'd never done it in the first place, because now they're dealing with somebody that's very, very annoying and potentially even threatening. So I wouldn't say that's a spell that's backfired at all. I'd say that's a spell that's worked very well, but you should have probably thought about that before you cast it, because you can't control other people's behavior. So if you are trying to cast a spell on another person to manipulate them into becoming attracted to you or falling in love with you, then you do have to deal with the consequences of that, because you can't control how they're going to do that. And generally, the love spells don't work for very long anyway. They may be just a temporary thing, because that person still has free will and they still have the ability to choose what it is that they do. So that's probably the most I've heard of spells going haywire, has actually been with love spells on other particular people. And yeah, I've done a whole video about why that's not a good idea. So that's on my channel under Spells and Magic. I'm just going to have a look at the comments here. Alchemy. Yes. Any particular herbs I should use in house cleaning or as a cleaning agent? Yes, herbs that are great for cleansing. So if you look at herbs and you look at what their medicinal use is, you'll find that corresponds to their magical use. So herbs that are astringent herbs, so antimicrobial, antibacterial, are great for cleaning your home of energy, negative energy, or energy that you don't want. So look at things like rosemary, for example. It's great as a house cleanser. You can same with that, or smudge with rosemary. You can burn it as an incense. You can pop it into your pop some rosemary tea into a bucket and mop your house, or spray your house with rosemary water. It's a great herb that will do it all on its own. You don't need any other herb when you've got rosemary, because it's very, very potent. Other ones are eucalyptus. It's also really great at also removing viruses as well. There's a couple of different types of eucalyptus that are antiviral. So it's removing not only the physical bacteria and viruses in your environment, but also energetically as well. Tea tree is another great, very, very potent cleanser. And I think the smell of the tea tree is probably enough to deter anything. So they're the ones that I use anyway. I don't really use any others for cleansing apart from those three, because they're the most readily available that I have here in Australia. Definitely the eucalyptus and the tea tree, because they're everywhere around here. Okay. Magic weaves its way through an already present structure, so one has to balance one's expectations with trusting the timing. Yes. So magic is going to take its time. Now, some people would say that if you haven't seen the results yet, that means that you haven't been able to fully uh, be in the wish fulfilled. You haven't been able to fully realize it within your subconscious that you have it. You haven't become the person that you need to become to have it. And there's a certain element of truth in that. But sometimes magic's going to work anyway. And you may not be ready for the results. You may have thought that you could handle it, but then when the magic happens, you can't handle it. And sometimes there's this interesting thing that happens with magic where if you've done magic for something, the opposite can happen. And this is why people think that the magic's backfired. And I've actually done a video on this as well. And I've had this experience where I've done health work and then ended up that the health issue kind of got worse. But in it getting worse, it actually ended up getting better because getting worse actually set me off to actually find more information about how I could fix it. So sometimes magic will bring you into a situation where you've got then access or the motivation to get access to the information you need or the people you need or the help you need in order to be able to do what it is that you need. Sometimes magic's going to bring to your attention that you've got some unconscious beliefs that are actually going to block you from that. So if you're doing magic for money, because money is probably one of the biggest ones that people have beliefs around that aren't serving them. If you're doing magic for money and then, the money actually seems to be going backwards, like out more than it's coming in, or you have a big bill or something happens and you've got to outlay a lot of money and magic, then don't think that the magic's done that. Where if you follow that, what's it telling you? Is it telling you that keep working on the money magic, keep working on your money mindset? Because opposites sometimes happen in order for you to get to the result that you want. And that's been my experience. I've had that happen with money magic and I've had that happen with health magic, where things seem to be going backwards after I did the spell or the work. And I've just persevered with it. I've persevered living in the wish fulfilled. I've said things to myself over and over again. Things are always working out for me. Things are always working out for me. This is part of it working out for me. And when I go through that small period of time where the money's gone out or the health thing got a little bit worse, and I just keep saying that over and over and over again, that's when the magic kicks in and brings you the money or brings you the better health. So that can happen. So it's not that it's backfired. It's just that it's actually going through that process to actually fulfill itself. What you have to do is go into a very, very positive way of feeling and being and just believing that things are always working out for you. Things are always working out for me. Things are always working out for me. I don't know why this has happened or how this could even work out for me, but it's working out for me. And if you do have any limiting beliefs about, money or health or yourself, then that's a good time to work on them as well. Okay. Never manipulate another, spiritual assault. Yeah, that's about in regard to the love magic we were talking about. Just had a lesson about making tinctures and salves that covered this on a basic level. Awesome. Okay, so can I perform spells for someone else without their permission? So this is a one again of people's, I guess, ethics, values, principles, all of these things. And personally, I think this is really one for yourself. This is a matter for yourself. I personally don't have a problem in helping people out magically if they're in a spot. Usually, if they're unwell and I know they want to get well, then I'm not going to necessarily ask them to do something for them, even if that's just including them in Reiki, that I do distance Reiki or anything like that. I won't necessarily ask them because I know that they're already wanting it in the first place because they're doing whatever they can to get well. It depends on what it is that you're doing on them. It's if it's something like something that they're not going to want, or something that may not be in their best interests, then seek them out first. Like if you know a friend of yours is looking for love and you'd love to do a love spell for them, then ask them if you can do one for them, rather than just go and do it. I personally would ask them for that, because that's, I guess, in a way, that's kind of, yeah, something I would ask them about. But when it comes to healing, sometimes you can't even speak to the person that you're doing healing for, because they might be in such a situation that you can't even speak with them. And I've been in that situation too, where I didn't even have access to be able to speak to them, or they weren't compass mentors. And you just got to go with it. You just got to go with what you feel is the right thing to do. Healing magic is probably where I do it without asking. Other forms of magic I would ask first, just to see what that person, wants. So that's me personally, but everybody's different there, and I'm not going to go and, lay those sorts of ethical things onto people, because it really is a matter for yourself, that one. How often should I perform spells? Well, as often as you want. I would recommend that you only do one spell a day, because they do require energy, and you don't want to deplete yourself energetically. And also, it's good to just focus on one thing for a while, so that if you're living in the wish fulfilled, you're able to focus a bit more on one thing. You may find that there's multiple things in your life that you want. So you might want a better job or more income, but you also want to live somewhere else, and you want to have a wonderful relationship. You want, say, these things. In your imagination, before you go to bed at night, you can imagine you're already living with all three of those things. So you're not necessarily doing a spell, but you're still putting yourself in the wish fulfilled. And then focus on the money spell for 1 week, the love spell for the next week, and then the living spell the week after. But still, before you go to bed at night, and when you wake up in the morning, you're imagining that you already are experiencing those three things. You've already got a wonderful relationship. You're living in the house you want to live in, the place you want to live in, and the money, you're feeling what it feels like to feel safe and secure and wealthy and able to spend money when you need to, using your imagination when you wake up and before you go to bed, when you're in that alpha wave state, is a great time to be actually doing mind magic. So you can still do your spell and then keep living in the wish fulfilled thereafter, as if it's already happened. What is the role of visualization in spell casting? When we say visualization, it's not just visual, okay? Most of us are visual, and some people aren't. Some people can't visualize, or some people get confused about what visualization means. Visualizing isn't about seeing something as if it's really there when your eyes are shut. Generally, when you shut your eyes, you're just going to see colors, shapes. You're not really going to see like a thing. It's in our imagination that we're visualizing. So we're imagining something. Like if you have a memory of somebody, like if I said, do you remember your pet, or think of your pet, think of your, one of your siblings, think of your mother, think of your father. You've probably got an image of them in your imagination. You can see them in your mind's eye and your imagination. That's what we mean by visualization. You're seeing it in that way. And visualizing is helpful because it can help us put ourselves in the wish fulfilled and imagine that we're there. So if you're visualizing a new home, then you could imagine that you're cleaning the bench tops in the kitchen of that new home. What does that kitchen bench look like? And you're feeling yourself cleaning it. So you're bringing in other senses too. So you're bringing in touch, you're touching the kitchen bench. You're seeing the kitchen bench as you're seeing your hand touching it. So you're having a lived experience of cleaning that kitchen bench in your home that you're wanting to manifest. And the hearing, you might hear the dishes, you might hear the running water in the tap. So you're using hearing as well. And if there's scent, maybe you're cleaning the kitchen sink with some sort of scented cleaning product, and you can smell that. And so that's all part of your experience. That's all visualization. It's not just visual, it's auditory, it's sensate, it's tactile, it's olfactory. And sometimes, depending on what you're wanting to manifest, it can even be taste as well. So we're using all of our senses to put ourselves into a lived reality in our imagination as if we're already living it. And that sends a very clear signal to the subconscious mind that we're already experiencing what we want to experience. That gives us an emotion. It creates an emotion in our body. The emotions then affect our vibration. So we start to then vibrate to equal to what it is we want, because we're having the emotional experience of already experiencing it in the subconscious mind. And if you're interested in that kind of stuff, do definitely look at people like Lynn McTaggart and Joe Dispenza for the more science behind that and the experimentation that's been done around that as well. So visualization is very important. If you can't visualize, a lot of people can't, there are people who can't do it at all, then use another sense, use another way of being in the feeling state of already having what it is that you want. Feel your way into it. Well, how do you expect to feel if you are already experiencing what it is you want to experience? So if you're wanting to manifest love in your life, what would that feel like to have a companion, to have somebody in your life? What does that feel like on an emotional level? And feel it when you're doing your magic. And that's a way of using your imagination, but more in a more of a sensate sort of way, rather than having to try and visualize it if you're not very good at visualizing. Okay, I was trying to manifest a good relationship. I have that now. That is with someone I had never expected. Totally, totally. Magic will work that way, you know. So, and that's, I've experienced that too with that kind of magic. You do end up with someone you would never expect. And look, I think with a lot of romance, you usually do end up with someone you, most of the time, you wouldn't expect to end up with anyway, whether you use magic or not. It can happen that way. That space that you mentioned between sleep and wakefulness is liminal, yep, and it's related to Hecate. So working with her before going into that state to after the subconscious beliefs is useful. Yes, working with Hecate on anything to do with the liminal, with the subconscious mind, with thoughts, beliefs. Hecate is an amazing goddess to work with. She is honestly outstanding, in my opinion, to work with these kinds of things. She is brilliant at helping you not just find things to work on, but to actually help you deal with them and heal them and change them. Like she will help you transform those beliefs, into not being there and into being their opposite. Essentially, she's an amazing goddess, and I'm currently just started working on a new course with Hecate. It's a course on identity shifting. So it's sort of the next step up from just the normal shadow work where you're trying to get rid of the beliefs that aren't serving you anymore, which is more my Wheels of Empowerment course. So it's getting through all of the beliefs that's keeping you stuck. This one is about actually helping you shift from being the person who you kind of feel trapped as, to becoming the person you want to be, feeling more empowered. Usually that means feeling more connected to your freedom, feeling more connected to your power, feeling more connected to your sovereignty, feeling more connected to your confidence, feeling more connected to being able to walk your path, your potential, your purpose. And so I'm currently working on that with Hecate at the moment, because she's just so brilliant at doing all of this stuff. So I will let you know when that course becomes available. It could be in November, or alternatively, it'll be February. So I will mention more about that when it gets closer. Yes, so hail Hecate for sure. Absolutely. She's amazing. Amazing deity. Okay, so that is well, I think I'll talk about spell casting today. Now, if you do want to learn Wicca and Witchcraft with me, which includes spell casting as well as all the other stuff around magic, I have the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy. So that's a 12-month course where you learn energy work, you learn to make circles, you learn to know why you're doing a circle, work with the elements, work with your tools, and magic, as well as working with celebrating nature, connecting to spirit, the deities through the lunar rites, through Sabbats, and just through an everyday practice where you're turning up for yourself and connecting to who you truly are. So that course is a 12-month course. It's called the Mystery Witch School 101. And there's a link in the description field below this video for how you can enroll in that. And I'll just put that in the chat as well. But also, because we're talking about spell casting, I have another mini course, well, sort of a mini course, medium course, that's called The Witch's Guide to Magic, and that is all on casting spells and what you need to know and do to cast simple, effective spells. And there's a whole lot of spells actually in that course that are, I've actually designed that course around focusing particularly on the nuances of love magic, the nuances of money and success magic, the nuances of defense and protection magic, and health and wellness magic. So it's divided into those 4 categories because we all carry blockages towards at least one of those. And it helps you understand why you may be struggling in one of those areas where you're not struggling in one of the others. So that's the Witch's Guide to Magic. You can purchase that separately to the Mystery Witch School if that's all you're interested in. But at the moment, it's actually being offered as a bonus to the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy, so that when you enroll in the 101 Academy, you're also getting the Witch's Guide to Magic as well. So that, I just wanted to let you know that that's back on again. Okay, and there's links in the description field below this video. There's links on my website. If you go to my courses tab on my website, even on the home page, you can get there. It's all there. Okay, do you feel there is a shift towards males feeling drawn to working with goddesses? It seems to be happening, only because I know, I guess, people who are. And I don't know whether that's unusual. When I think back to the past, I still know that a lot of male witches that I used to know back in the coven days had goddesses that they liked to work with as well, and very much revering the goddess energy as well as the god energy. So I don't know if it's necessarily anything new, but it's definitely happening. Okay, once I was traveling and a representative of my enemy simply showed a photograph and hypnotized me, and then he asked a lot of personal questions from me, and I answered him like an obedient student. So that person was probably very, very good at hypnosis and was very irresponsible with using it, because you shouldn't use it that way. And some people are very, very good at mentalism and very good at hypnotherapy and can put you into a trance state, which can make you more vulnerable to those sorts of things. So anyone who's skilled at hypnotherapy, who's good at it, who practices it, can do something like that. Most don't. Most are ethical in what they do. But even my hypnotherapy teacher told me once he did that, because somebody was scoffing in hypnotherapy and saying, "Oh, I could never be hypnotized. I could never be hypnotized." And so he did a really quick thing, and it made this person believe that he could not lift his foot off the floor. So yeah, these things happen, and yeah, people can do that. So it's the power of suggestion. We're very suggestible beings. On one hand, it helps us learn better, so we need to be suggestible to learn things. On the other hand, sometimes it makes us stupid because we'll just believe something because somebody or a lot of people believe it. And the way that people manipulate other people through coercion and through fear and through suggestion, even through the media, suggestion through the media, over and over and over again, can make people believe things that aren't true. And just because the majority believes something doesn't mean that it's true. So we're very suggestible beings, and that's why the inner work, the shadow work, is really important for us to take back our mind and to take back our power, so that we're not just believing something because it's the thing. We're not just believing something because somebody's trying to bully us into believing it or coerce us into believing it. We are believing it because we've got critical thinking and we're able to determine for ourselves whether we feel it's right or wrong. Yeah, so yeah, the person should never have done that. Okay, thank you everybody for coming along this week. We will enjoy all of the amazing things that are happening at the moment. We've got lunar eclipse coming up in on the 18th. Okay, apparently there's some positive aspects to that, and we've also got the spring equinox down here where I am, and the autumn equinox up there where probably most of you are. And that's coming up on the 22nd for us anyway. And I think the 22nd is it Sunday? I haven't actually looked to see what day it is, but that's coming up as well. So I wish you all a wonderful equinox, whichever one you're celebrating, and do enjoy the balance of that, and figure out a little bit more about how you can bring more balance into your life with all of this coming up, and enjoy the seasonal change. It's a good time of year. So blessed be everyone. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.